Temptation and distraction have become the norm of our everyday existence. You go into the grocery store to buy milk and walk out with chocolate, candy and soda. You're online researching your assignment for school, but then find yourself on 4chan or watching some BuzzFeed videos. Or you grab your phone to check something quick and you find you need to fulfill your duty to humble your friends in Fortnite. Most of the time when you lose control, you justify this in your brain that it's okay. You will eat healthier next time, exercise tomorrow, study more next week, quit smoking next month. You assume that you will do it next time and then end up putting it off and repeating the same mistakes over and over again. Eventually your actions become bad habits and your goals become more and more elusive. The ability to make conscious choices at every moment is referred to as will. Dr. Roy Baumeister, one of the preeminent experts in willpower and the author of the book Willpower, states that achieving goals require 3 necessary components. Firstly, establishing the motivation for change and setting a clear goal. Secondly, monitoring your behavior towards that goal. And thirdly, maintaining willpower, the motivation to exercise will, which allows the ability to resist short-term temptations in order to meet long-term goals. In the brain, the prefrontal cortex is the part that helps us with things like decision-making and regulating our behavior, and therefore is closely linked to self-control and willpower. There is a lot of evidence now to show that willpower and self-control are essential ingredients for a happy and successful life. In the famous marshmallow experiment by Dr. Walter Mitchell, children who resisted the temptation of eating their marshmallows achieved greater academic success, better health, lower rates of marital separation later on in their adult life. Similarly, psychologists Angela Duckworth and Martin Seligman studied delayed gratification in 8th graders and the option of receiving $1 immediately or waiting a week to receive $2. They concluded that students who waited a week were shown to have high self-discipline, which resulted in better grades, better school attendance, and higher standardized test scores. Other studies show that childhood self-control predicted the probabilities of substance dependence, personal finances, and criminal offense. So how does willpower work? Well, willpower works like a muscle. It gets stronger when exercised and becomes weak and depleted if you overwork it, so it needs a chance to recover. Dr. Kelly McGonigal, the author of Willpower Instinct, says, trying to control your temper, ignoring distractions, or refusing seconds all tap the same source of strength. Fyodor Dostoevsky made the observation that if you try not to think of a polar bear, then the polar bear will come into your mind every minute. We can see this in a study of thought suppression, where participants were told not to think about a white bear. To do this requires a great deal of self-control. After the task, participants were told to limit their intake of beer. Those who took part in the thought suppression task were found to drink more beer than participants who had not. A similar study of people who were asked to suppress their feelings while watching an upsetting movie gave up quicker on a physical stamina test compared to people who could freely express their emotions during the movie. Likewise, women who watched nature documentaries seated near a bowl of candy but were told they couldn't eat it gave up sooner when given impossible puzzles to solve than women seated far away from the candy. These experiments show how suppressing thoughts, emotions, or actions depletes your willpower. As with lifting weights to build muscles, certain activities can help build or improve your willpower. Engaging meditation can help you increase your reserves of willpower, as well as improving attention, focus, stress management, and self-awareness. As little as 8 weeks of daily meditation training is shown to have marked and dramatic results. Good nutrition and regular physical exercises such as yoga or intense physical training can also enhance willpower. However, willpower can be depleted quickly if you don't give yourself a break. We usually suffer from what is called restraint bias, where we are prone to overestimating the amount of willpower we have. But we easily slide back once we expose ourselves to our objects of weakness, such as junk food, smoking, drugs, gambling, pornography, or alcohol. Your energy level has a profound impact on your willpower. Getting enough sleep helps the brain manage energy better, and in turn your self-control. In contrast, sleep deprivation results in prefrontal cortex impairment, the part of your brain that creates cravings and handles stress response. It is no surprise that most people experience excessive grumpiness when sleep deprived, and for example, children begin to behave emotionally when tired. Imagination and visualization is a powerful way to build willpower. For example, A study showed that participants who imagined delaying consumption of a bowl of chocolate candy later ate significantly less than those that imagined they could eat as much as they wanted or none at all. The group that imagined that they delayed consumption of the chocolate candy also had less desire for the candy later on. Another way to prevent depletion of willpower is to focus on something else or use your imagination to keep unwanted thoughts at bay. Every time an unwanted thought invades your mind, think about something else pleasant instead. In the marshmallow experiment, high delayers resisted eating the marshmallow by distracting themselves, such as covering eyes, turning chairs around, or singing to themselves. This brings up the point of not putting yourself in temptation's way, as these situations can tax your willpower. This may sound a little religious or biblical, but as Baumeister puts it, people with low willpower use it to get themselves out of crisis, whereas people with high willpower use it not to get themselves into crisis.
No!
If you are trying to lose weight but you have a weakness for greasy hamburgers, walking past a Burger King store every day and thinking about how good it tastes will guarantee you will eventually succumb to your temptations. Building good regular habits can act as a buffer during situations of stress. Stress strongly depletes willpower, and people resort to old habits unconsciously in a stressed state, whether the habits are good or bad. Most of the time, people resort to overeating, pornography, alcohol, or drugs. This is because stress induces your body to respond by boosting stress hormones, notably cortisol. Carbs and alcohol, for example, can lower cortisol, but in the long run, can lead to the risk of obesity, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and other alcohol-related diseases. By building good habits to counteract this fight or flight response, for example, taking deep breaths, listening to calming music, visualizing calming scenes, moderate exercise, watching comedy videos, or receiving a surprise gift from someone. Researchers have demonstrated that you can induce good moods that overcome willpower depletion. Often, people may feel overwhelmed by the enormity of the goals they must accomplish, and this can put you in a state of willpower depletion. Breaking down the goals into manageable pieces and completing them step by step allows you to control using your willpower unnecessarily. As Dr. Denise Cummins puts it, it's like eating an elephant one bite at a time, and you're not allowed to look up to see how much is left. Incrementally adding to your goals allows you to build from something modest to something incredible. This also ensures you're not putting yourself in a state of willpower depletion. By completing small goals, you gain a sense of satisfaction that makes you more confident to tackle the next goal. The comedian Jerry Seinfeld is famous for the "don't break the chain" technique, which he created to keep himself accountable. Jerry used to hang a calendar on his wall, and for every day he wrote a new material, he drew a big red X over that day. He found that drawing the X was fun and rewarding and kept doing it. The don't break the chain method is useful for doing anything that requires you to put in time day in, day out. For example, writing, learning a new skill, or changing a habit. Over time, the daily activities become automatic habits and decrease your reliance on willpower to motivate yourself to action. The momentum will allow you to bulldoze through excuses and other forms of procrastination holding you back. Comedian, MMA commentator, and host Joe Rogan frequently gives advice on his Joe Rogan Experience podcast to be yourself. A good reason for being yourself is because it takes an enormous amount of effort to suppress your normal personality, preferences, and behaviors. Psychologist Mark Muravin shows that people pleasers who exercise self-control in order to hide who they were more easily depleted of willpower than those who acted authentically. In summary, willpower is the motivation to exercise will and is linked to self-control. Willpower works like a muscle, and good habits such as meditation, sufficient sleep, regular exercise, good nutrition, and monitoring your energy levels will build and sustain your reserves. Avoiding situations where you need to rely on willpower and using techniques such as imagination and visualization can minimize willpower depletion. With enough awareness and practice, you can ensure your willpower is kept high and ready for those moments when you really need it.